What's going on, everybody? It's your boy DT here, and I am doing something a little bit different today. I'm actually going to be reading and reacting to the GQ article and interview that they did with BTS recently. I've already seen the behind the scenes video shoot that they did where BTS looked fantastic. And now I'm going to be seeing what this article is all about and seeing what the guys had to say. Should be pretty interesting. So, without further delay, let's get right into it. All right, so we see the boys sitting here looking handsome. What else we got? All right, BTS begins again. In the nearly 4 years since they went on break for mandatory military service in South Korea, the members of BTS have grown as artists and men, launching distinct solo careers to huge success. Now the biggest band in the world is reuniting with the fifth studio album, a massive global tour, and a definitive answer to whether they're stronger alone or together. Okay, let's not get it twisted. They're stronger together, okay? You may have your opinions, but in my opinion, BTS is stronger together 100%. There's no question about it. They make magic together, and there's nothing else like it. So let's not get it twisted, y'all. In mid-2025, right after the final member of BTS, the biggest band in the world, had served out the mandatory military service required of every able-bodied male in South Korea, the 7 members of the group decamped for Los Angeles to reunite under one roof. The 7, RM, Jin, Suga, J-Hope, Jimin, V, and Jungkook, had been in the band together since the early 2010s. You know what just occurred to me this morning? I've been following BTS for 6 years now. I first got into BTS in January 2020, right in the middle of COVID. Yeah, that's really what did it. COVID really brought me to BTS. So thank you, COVID, I guess. I had nothing but time on my hands alone in my apartment that, I had a lot of time, and that's when I discovered BTS and started doing these YouTube video reactions. So kind of crazy, right? 6 years. Anyway, when they were still teenagers, but had not lived in the same place since 2019. After a few years apart, fulfilling their service and tending to solo careers, it was time to get back to work. We do 6 days a week like businessmen, says RM, the band's leader. They followed a strict routine, training together in the gym in the morning, coming back home for lunch, reporting to the studio by 1 p.m., and working with various songwriters and producers on new songs until about 8 p.m., after which they'd all go back home. Sounds like a pretty fun life to me, especially if you're young. Living in one house as roommates, once again, BTS were inadvertently doing a simulation of life before superstardom, back to their days as trainees for Big Hit Entertainment, later rebranded as Hive Corporation, when they would have given anything just to debut. Okay, so that tells me there's clearly going to be some kind of documentary coming up with BTS where it's gonna focus on them getting back together, working on songs. So we're gonna get I think it's a Netflix documentary, am I right? Where they're gonna go in deep and see the behind the scenes, all the footage of them kind of getting back together and working on their new album. I'm excited for that. This was way before they sold over 500 million units and racked up over 104 billion streams worldwide, before they became the first Korean band to be nominated for a Grammy, to top the Billboard 200 album chart and the Billboard Hot 100 singles chart, to speak at the United Nations before they became a global cultural force, the best-selling Asian act ever, and one of the best-selling groups of any genre, any nation, any time, period. That's awesome. By now, the BTS mythology is well worn. In 2010, Big Hit Entertainment, then an underdog record label in Seoul, signed a 16-year-old RM, 16, who was already making a name for himself as a prodigious rapper in the local underground hip-hop scene. Suga Yoongi, a songwriter and rapper who also had a presence in that scene, and J-Hope, a b-boy dancer turned rapper. Yeah, he did. He really turned rapper, didn't he? He ended up being like one of the best rappers. joined shortly after. Sensing a more lucrative opportunity, the company changed its plans and turned the hip-hop trio into a K-pop band. Best decision you ever made! Eventually creating a unique 7-member lineup that bridged the edginess of the underground rappers with the shiny commercial appeal of a more traditional idol group. Whoever's idea that was deserves a raise. Jin, an acting major, eventually proved himself with a strong vocalist. Yeah, the boy's got pipes. And earned the tag Worldwide Handsome. Jungkook, the youngest and one of the most versatile singers, soon grew into an all-around performer. You're damn right. And then there was the beautiful man, V, with his deep baritone and model-esque good looks. Stunning, beautiful man, adding a cosmopolitan polish to the proceedings. I like the way this guy writes. Rounding out the group was Jimin, trained dancer who brought his performance skills and higher-pitched, utterly distinctive voice to the mix. In a few short years, the scrappy underdog act was giving groups from South Korea's big 3 entertainment companies, SM Entertainment, YG Entertainment, JYP Entertainment, a run for their money, before becoming the local industry's #1 band, and later transcending the scene altogether, becoming a worldwide phenomenon. Yeah, I like this little recap of their career. It's pretty dope. For those 2 months in LA, back together in the same house, the boys, now men in their late 20s and early 30s, worked day in and day out, all in an effort to make the best possible album. They worked as if digging for a piece of gold, like they did in the early days. They're hungry, they're back on the grind, and I think we have found one, RM says, referring to their 5th studio album and their first in nearly 6 years, which will of course come to a colossal world tour that I am not going to get to see because of stupidness. It's the most eagerly anticipated comeback in recent music history, inspiring a kind of feverish excitement reminiscent of when Elvis returned from the army in 1960. Wow, that's pretty awesome. The band and I are together in a studio about an hour away from Seoul. The interview they've granted as a group since announcing a break in 2022, and I find myself immediately disarmed by their camaraderie, which feels both reassuring and hard-won. In December, RM went live on Weverse, the community platform of HYBE, and confessed to fans that he had thought of disbanding the group thousands of times ahead of their comeback. The live stream sent shockwaves through ARMY. Adorable representative MC for youth. When did they come up with that? I'm so late. I did not even know that was an acronym. Did you guys know that? I didn't know that. I feel so stupid. The band's exceedingly global, impressive, strategic, and loving, protective fan base. Okay, so this article has already paid for itself by teaching me quite a few things. And there they are, looking handsome. They look fantastic. The personal pressure is huge, he said on the December live stream. Since last month, I haven't been able to sleep. I was thinking about whether I should get a prescription for sleeping pills. Nah, bruh. I've wondered 1,000 times, would it be better for the team to disband or go into hiatus? Yeah, RM was going through it back then. I remember we talked about it. I was like, something's going on with RM. He does not seem like right in the mind mentally. And I think, I'm sure this time off, this break, he's been kind of doing his thing, going to museums, really cleansing the mind, body, and soul for the last few years, actually. So good for RM for taking care of his mental health. You know what I'm saying? The strain is understandable. The stakes are almost too high. Nearly 6 years on from their last studio album, can BTS, which stands for Bangtan or Bulletproof Boy Scouts, before later evolving into Beyond the Scene, deliver a body of work that meets the anticipation from that long wait? Almost 4 years after last performing together, is the magic still there? You know, a lot of people have asked me that, like, do you think BTS is going to be the same? Are they still going to be as huge as they were when they left? A lot of people have been asking me, like, what do you think? Are they going to? Yes, they are. I have total confidence and faith in the boys delivering the goods next month. Or has their time apart changed them in ways that make it difficult to go back to the way things were? I mean, that's a reasonable question. I mean, you're always going to wonder that about anybody. any kind of entertainer, or performer, or athlete, or actor, anybody who's been out of the game for a long time, you're going to have those questions, but I'm very confident that they'll be just fine. Added to all of that is the fact that in helping bring South Korea's music scene to the center of global pop, they have also had the hopes of an entire nation on their backs, not to mention the adoration and dreams of their earth-spanning army. Yeah, a little bit of pressure, but they eat pressure for breakfast. They've been doing this for the last 10 years. 15 years actually. Sitting down together for this interview and mostly speaking through a translator, the topic of RM's Weverse Live, the crash out heard around the world, they called it a crash out, naturally comes up. I think I have some memes because of that live stream, RM says, laughing. How did the other members feel? Actually, none of us watched that video of the live streaming, V says. We only watched short YouTube shorts on it or reels, says Jin. Because it'd be weird if you watch each other's live stream, Suga explains. We're always together and we're like brothers. I think it's RM's love language to Army in a way, says Jimmy. It really shows how emotionally invested he is in the group and in Army as well. I think it was very RM to be vulnerable and say things like that. Yep, RM is very emotional, very in touch with his feelings, and he says what he feels. RM is like the identity of this group, V says. He's the core leader of the group, so he must feel so much more pressure than the rest of us do. I usually don't have that much pressure, but it seems like he does. RM, visibly moved by his bandmates' sentiments, says, how sweet, looking at the other six. Love these guys. Their closeness is palpable. They are clearly easily relaxed with one another. Jimin squeezes Jin's neck because of course he did. Jimin has to touch and feel. Jin playfully taps Jimin's leg. Jungkook settles in, placing 2 tangerines and several tiny bags of potato crackers in front of himself, munching with enthusiasm between answers. That boy's always eating. If you guys saw my reaction to Are You Sure Season 2, them boys are always eating, especially JK, because, he's got so much muscle mass, you got to keep the engine fed. Meanwhile, V, the significance of the occasion not lost on him, whips out his phone to take a photo of the others. In true BTS fashion, the boys work through the complex emotions spurred on by RM's Weverse Live by clowning on each other, as brothers are wont to do. What the hell does that mean? We're not the type that consoles each other, Jimin says, but we just laugh and make fun of the person to make him laugh and forget about it. We also had some drinks together. That usually helps. Look at them, black and white photo, looking awesome. Although we make fun of them in the front, in the back we're crying too. Ooh, Vietnamese crying. They're such boys, RM tells me, laughing. That's how they deal with this kind of situation. Yeah, make it into a meme and pretend it's like nothing happened. It's clear that for these guys, there's true strength in numbers, and even the crushing pressure of a massive pop comeback can be relived with jokes and brotherly banter. At one point during our conversations, apropos of nothing, Jimin dramatically takes off his jacket to reveal a ribbed tank top clinging to his trim torso, fighting for its life. Sexy! Jungkook exclaims. Is there a video of this? Where is the video of this? A response to Jimin visibly appreciates camply flexing his arms and pinching his biceps, distracting his bandmates from their philosophizing. Okay, we gotta see this. We gotta see it for no other reason than the fact that Jimin takes off his jacket to reveal the ribbed tank top. I must see it. Okay, I witnessed this dynamic during our cover photo shoot too, when V animatedly danced to Wiz Khalifa and Snoop Dogg's Young, Wild, and Free, as if daring Suga, who had to hold still as he was touched up by the hair and makeup team, to join him. And as J-Hope walked away from his solo portrait, Drake's Hold On, We're Going Home played over the speakers. A song he evidently can't resist, belting out, We're Going Home, in full falsetto, putting a momentary stop to the shoot. It's a little staggering hearing massive pop stars letting it rip a few feet away. They just share a strong bond with each other and genuinely communicate as a group. Megan Thee Stallion, wop wop, who collaborated with the band on the Butter remix with RM on her single Never Play. Yeah, that was dope. Told me. It's so rare to see that collective level of humility, love, and teamwork, but it's a special dynamic. What I feel about the 7 BTS guys, said Coldplay, Chris Martin, is that they have been it seems from knowing them a bit, made closer by the very intense process of becoming stars. Martin and Coldplay collaborated with BTS on the #1 hit, My Universe. You are. I was really happy that it seemed like they had each other's backs. They're very tight personally, and they intertwine well. They don't tread on each other's toes too much. There's distinct roles. The love between them is real. That was the most striking thing. Love in a very intense situation. That's right, Chris Martin. At a certain point, just like you can't understand what makes music magical, I think it's the same with bands, Martin continued. And that's why we love bands sometimes. We really don't know why. Why is this group of 7 people a magical thing? Bigger than the sum of its parts. That's what I've been saying right there. It's the sum of the parts. It's not individuals. Even though as great as they are individually, there is something about the chemistry of these 7 that will never be replicated. I think that's the reason why I don't think there's not going to be another K-pop BTS group. There's not going to be another BTS group, period. Because like the Beatles, like other groups in the past, that kind of lightning in a bottle chemistry is just rare. It comes around once in a generation, and BTS just happens to have it. So enjoy while they last, because here they are. Beyond the fact that they work extraordinarily hard and that they're kind to each other and they love what they do, there's a certain magic that I don't know how to explain. I've been saying that. I've been talking about the magic. We tend to recommend music to each other when we like something. That's why we tend to like the same music at the same time, J-Hope. Lost in all this talk of their long-awaited comeback is the fact that over the past few years, the members of BTS encountered something out of reach for most ultra-famous celebrities. They experienced becoming regular people again. That is a great point. Let's talk about it. Nearly all male South Korean citizens between 18 and 28 are required to serve for roughly 18 to 21 months in the military due to the permanent threat of conflict with North Korea. Almost no one gets an exemption, save for Olympic medalists. Before they enlisted, there was some speculation that the BTS members would be granted one after all. They would be granted one after all. They were practically national treasures. A lot of you guys were saying that they should be exempted from going to the military. I think they made the right decision, especially from for pride of being Korean and for like morale. You want to inspire the youth who have to go through this, that, hey, we're doing the same thing. We're fulfilling our obligation too. I think that grounded them. I think that made them more relatable, and it made them look like guys who are about that life. They're 10 toes down, and they're not going to take some easy route. They're not dodging the draft. You know what I'm saying? So I think it was a great decision, and I'm glad that they did what they had to do. They completed their obligation to their country, and that's a big deal. But they soon surprised the world by enlisting, staggering their service, with Jin going in first, Suga completing it last, so that there would always be BTS members active in the public sphere as solo performers. Good strategy. A highly coordinated effort that ensured their beloved army would never miss their presence. By fulfilling their military duty in roles as varied as drill instructors to military cook. Jin and J-Hope were drill instructors. Military cook, Jungkook. Okay, that makes sense. To Special Task Force V, gangster. The members were able to experience the tedium and routine of daily life like their fellow 20-something Korean citizens. Suga, for example, served as a public service worker, reportedly due to a shoulder injury, going from headlining stadiums around the world to clocking in at an office. Woo! Man, that should be a documentary by itself. You know, how cool of a story it is to see these larger-than-life entertainers, performers become regular people. That should be a documentary. That should be a movie right there. Because, yeah, that never happens. I was actually never, ever late to the office, Suga said proudly. I always came in 10 minutes early. I got ready for whatever I had to do for the day. It was at first weird for me to always get someplace on time and always go home at the same time, but I got used to it, and later it just became part of me. That routine eventually influenced his music making too. Before I went to the service, I would usually work on music at nighttime or very late at night, but I actually used the daytime to work on songs after I got discharged. Being put into a totally different world for us and adapting was, of course, difficult, J-Hope admits. But humans are funny. Because they learn to adapt pretty quickly, I do feel that I have become healthier and I got to learn more about life and different sides of society. I also got to know a lot of new people, which was a big plus. And being in the military and serving in the military is something that every man in Korea goes through. See what I'm saying? It was so hard. I was going to cry. Jimin says, pantomiming tears while cracking up. It was very challenging, but being able to be in those shoes and experiencing that meant a lot to us. Yeah, it's something that they can always look back on and appreciate for the experience that it was. I'm sure being in it at the time probably was a little bit stressful, because 2 years is a long time, especially coming from the lifestyle that they came from. All of a sudden doing this, I'm sure it was very kind of like, it was probably shock to the system. But they all took it like men. And now that it's over, just like anything in life, you look back on those difficult moments and kind of smile because it made you a stronger person and built your character. You see what I'm saying? One of the group's most memorable reunions was actually during the break. It was before we all got discharged from the military service, and Jungkook cried. He bawled, V says, recounting his bandmates' desire for the group to reunite in earnest. Jungkook cried because he really wanted to be on stage and he just really wanted to perform. I mean, yeah, the man has been doing this since he was like 13. Look at the handsome on V. Damn, can we just take a minute to appreciate the handsome? Okay. We all treasure BTS more than we treasure each one of us separately. We debuted as a group, so I think that's the core identity that we have. V. I could really feel how much love and passion Jungkook has for our stage performances and music, Suga adds. Through all of this, Jungkook, the youngest, feigns ignorance. I don't really remember, he says with a laugh, but everyone was there. Apart, the seven grew professionally. Each member released distinct, impressive, fully formed projects from boom bap hip hop, J-Hope's Jack in the Box, to Peter Gabriel-esque power ballads, Jin's The Astronaut, from chart-topping top 40 hits, Jungkook's 7, to Jimin's Like Crazy. You're damn right. To introspective meditations on existential ennui, I don't know what that word is, RM's Right Place, Wrong Person album, from trilogy-length artistic statements. Suga completed his third release as his alter ego, August D, during the break. To short but sweet EPs, V's Layover. That was sultry. V. Loved it. The past few years have showcased the members of BTS stretching artistically. They've collaborated with legends like Erykah Badu, the late, great Ariuchi Sakamoto, Suga, J. Cole, J-Hope, and even the revered Wong Kar-wai collaborator Wing Shia, RM again. Yeah, RM likes to collab. To bring their visions to life. As a result, the seven have blossomed into self-styled auteurs with their own unique obsessions and increasingly distinct ways of doing things. The pop star Halsey, she's such a stan, who worked with the band on the 2019 hit Boy With Love and worked with Suga separately on her Maniac album and a reimagining of her song Lilith, paid close attention to each member's burgeoning artistry. They have all had such unique solo journeys that truly reflect their individual style and strengths, she said in an email. I wasn't surprised necessarily, but really impressed with how tasteful their solo work was handled. I think the most exciting thing about everyone's project was getting to see them flourish as songwriters and watch their personal flair come front and center. You're damn right. The solo activities for me was like a wake-up call, Jimin says. I knew that I had to practice a lot and grow as an artist and widen my spectrum before we banded together as one. I was looking at the performances and solo activities of other members and I thought, oh, I could do that too. They're doing very great. Yeah, in fact, I think I called it like when it was happening that these boys, obviously they, are rooting for each other. They want each other to do well, but there's probably a little bit of a competitive side to step up their game, to rise to the level. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's really cool that they got to show off their individual skills and talents and creativity while also seeing what the other guys are doing. Definitely kind of allows you to step your game up a little bit. So healthy competition can do wonders sometimes. What I really loved about working solo is that you get to learn more about your taste, especially when you're collaborating with these musical legends, says J-Hope. And you get to learn more about yourself. You get to learn more about your own colors. What kind of taste you have. I think it was a steep learning curve for me to be able to do that, he continues. That's why I think it's more meaningful that we're coming together as a group. Yeah. I think it only made them better artists. And so now, I mean, it makes sense that they're going to be better than ever, because now that they kind of like, sharpen their swords on their solo projects, and now they're coming back with that skill level heightened like that. I mean, it can only be a good thing. I think that's you can't buy money. You can't buy that with money. That's for sure. Oh, look at Jimmy and Ryan ping pong. Ping pong. I wonder who won. I can't wait to see the behind the scenes videos and more Netflix documentaries and all that shit. I want to see. I know we're here because we are a team, and we started as a team, and we very much acknowledge that. And also we have a lot of fun together. Jimin. Despite their explosive solo success, there was never any real doubt in their minds that they would be getting back together. No doubt about it. Yep. I know we're here because we're a team. They just said that. We all treasure BTS more than we treasure each one of us separately, says V. We debuted as a group, so I think that's the core identity that we have. I love you, man, Jimin tells V. Aww. 95 boys. But if we have too much time together, I don't want to see that, V. V! That's definitely something V would say. It doesn't always, or maybe ever, happen this way. Do you remember when NSYNC went on a hiatus after Justin Timberlake wanted to pursue his own career? A temporary break that eventually became permanent, as his solo career earned him the industry credibility the band never had. Let me explain something to you people, and I don't care if this offends some of you. I was a pretty hard NSYNC fan back in the day, so but was there any doubt? Was there any question who the superstar of NSYNC was? It was obvious that Justin Timberlake was the super duper star, and everybody else was just kind of holding their own a little bit. It made sense that Justin Timberlake went solo, and yeah, that it's not the same. Just like Destiny's Child, you know what I'm saying? Like Beyonce went off to do her thing. Sometimes, and I say most of the times, there's always like one mega star, like Michael Jackson, who went on to be a huge solo artist. But BTS is different, in where imagine having 5 Justin Timberlakes, or 5 Michael Jacksons. That's kind of what it's like with BTS, where they can do solo projects if they want to, but you're not going to have the incredible otherworldly genius success performance like you have when they're all together. They cannot duplicate that individually. You have to come together to kind of bring that kind of magic. There's no other way around it. So NSYNC, Justin Timberlake, not the same thing as BTS. Or when the Spice Girls continued, hey, shout out, respect the Spice Girls. Continued on, sans Ginger with new music, only for Scary, Sporty, and Posh to crowd their feverishly anticipated third album by launching solo efforts within the months of its release. Baby at least was on that message. That album Forever ultimately tanked, and the Promise World Tour never transpired. Again, we're comparing apples and oranges. The Spice Girls is not the same as BTS. NSYNC is not the same as BTS. You cannot compare the two, because what I kept talking about, there's a certain chemistry and talent level and camaraderie that BTS has that has never gotten in the way professionally. Typically, what you see with a lot of groups, because human beings are human, they're emotional. there's competitive, there's controversy, there's all this other stuff. It's hard for a group to stay together because of all the outside external stuff. But BTS hardly, I mean, do they ever get in trouble? Do they ever have real beef with anyone or each other? Absolutely not. So I think it's their camaraderie and their chemistry that makes them really, really special. You really can't say that about a lot of the other groups. Just saying, just saying. To go even further back, there was the Jackson, man, they're just, I could have written this article. The Jacksons' victory tour in 1984, a moment meant to trumpet the family's band's longevity and eventually felt more like a sad trombone cueing its end. That's because Michael Jackson was dope and it felt old. Jackson 5 reunion felt like the past. Michael Jackson felt like the future. That's not the case with BTS. The BTS as a group feels like the future. You know what I'm saying? Tensions between the brothers escalated. You see what I'm saying? Emotions, tension, relationships. Escalated on tour so much that on their final night headlining Dodger Stadium in LA, Michael, hot off the success of Thriller, went rogue and announced that it would be the last time the band would be performing together. Damn, I didn't know any of this shit. This is pretty awesome. I'm learning stuff. This is cool. The annals of pop music history are bursting with more examples of great bands that met their demise due to intra-band dynamics and the temptation of solo careers than ones that went on a break and successfully reunited. The fact that all 7 members of BTS have had successful solo careers that handily showcase their individual identities as artists, but are making good on their promise to get back together and continued working as a band, is a triumph in and of itself. The boys increasingly have individual passions, highly personal artistry, and busy lives of their own. They're just good people. It's as simple as that, Halsey said. They are respectful of each other and inclusive of everyone's opinion and ideas. There's a really clear vision of what BTS is, so everyone knows what's on the agenda, and they've hit such a stride in how their individual strengths support that central vision. It's not really egocentric environment. There's no way it could be, considering how focused they are on representing BTS and rewarding the fans. That's what I'm saying. Another big element to this is the Korean culture, and that is there's not huge egos among BTS. Or maybe it's not a Korean culture thing, maybe it's just a BTS thing, but usually egos are the downfall of most people, most groups, in any industry. Ego is the number one killer of a career, of a project, of a goal, of a whatever. It's ego. Ego is ruins all that. And I've noticed from the very beginning, and I've said it many times in front of you guys, how BTS does not seem to have an ego the way especially American artists and American culture seems to showcase. And so I think that's another huge element of why BTS is so good together, is because they know that together, that's their bread and butter. They can do solo projects if they want, just to show off their individual talents, but they know they're always eager to come back home, because that is the magic and they have no ego about it. Now, can you imagine if they were demanding this and they wanted to show off that and they think that they deserve this better than the other guy? That it would be so toxic, but they've managed to avoid a lot of that toxic behavior and circumstances that unfortunately is extremely prevalent in American society. It's a testament to the God-honest friendship and their devotion to the army and that this is all happening. People always say they will and they don't. It never happens. Yep. It's called integrity. It's called integrity, values, morals, just that feeling of togetherness and camaraderie. Yes, that makes a huge difference. And BTS has never lost that in the 15 years they've been together. Okay, in some ways, everything changed for RM at the 2022 Grammy Awards. Nominated for the Funky Infectious Butter, BTS went into its category riding high on its second career Grammy nod. And the rapturous reception to the show-stopping performance it delivered earlier in the telecast, bringing both bulletproof efficiency and an infectious air of camaraderie to the sometimes stodgy proceedings. It's all made its eventual loss to It all made its eventual loss in the Best Pop Duo or Group Performance category to Doja Cat, SZA's smash duet Kiss Me More. All the more disappointing to its fans, who quickly made the hashtag Scammies trend on Twitter and accused the show of using the band to drum up viewership. But RM had other things on his mind that night, watching Lady Gaga's theatrical and emotive tribute to her friend and mentor, Tony Bennett, and Hers electric medley with Lenny Kravitz and Travis Barker. He reflected on what it meant to dedicate your entire life to music. Okay, let me pause for a second. My battery on my laptop's about to die. 1 minute. All right, let's get back into it. I think the performance of Butter we put on at the Grammy Awards astonished people, he later said in an interview with Weverse. 2 months after the performance, I think it's time for us to move on beyond astonishing people and think again about what kind of messages we can send people now. I think it's time for us to move beyond astonishing people. I definitely had a grasp of what this group is back in the day, but now it seems like I hit this phase where it's impossible for me to know what the group is like or even who I am. That clearly, he continued. What should BTS be saying to the world from now on? What position should BTS be remembered for taking at this point? How are we going to function moving forward? Sitting with the band today, almost 4 years after that evening, I posed the same questions back to the group's leader. After a period of being by themselves, growing as individual artists, but also as men, what will BTS be moving forward? Good question. I like these questions. This guy's good. Sitting up straight, RM considers the question. The 13 years of the journey of BTS for personally myself started with, I know this team. He begins referring to his story as the band's founding member, the bright-eyed 16-year-old trainee that Big Hit Entertainment built the rest of the group around. The team started with me, myself, and then it just became, man, I don't know. The company, the label got so much bigger. The world is getting more complicated and confused even more and more. The platform has changed. The technology has changed so fast, getting faster and faster. It's accelerating. 10 years ago, success to the band just meant being number one on the charts. Our only goal was to rank number one in the TV music shows, Jin said, referring to the popular Korean television genre. That would give us so much delight and be ranked number one, and after that, we grew as artists. I think we can only be here because we were very hardworking back then. I think we're still confused, RM says with the characteristic honesty. But we're trying to find a little piece of gold inside this confusion. To get that clarity, the group knew they had to return to the foundation of BTS, each other. They entered a songwriting camp for the first time, working with the music industry's best songwriters and producers in Los Angeles. Ooh, look at my mans. They still look incredible. Really quick, I think this is very eye-opening to see how RM is kind of the heartbeat of BTS. He's kind of the heart and soul of BTS. He kind of, as he goes emotionally, they go. You know, they all look to him for to kind of set the tone. Like they all look to him for that strength. And if he's kind of not in it, they all kind of feel that. So he is the leader for a reason, and it's got to be tough being the leader, but you know, it's a hell of a responsibility when all of the guys really look up to him to see kind of where they're at collectively. And so I'm sure there's a lot of pressure on RM, and I called it. I knew something was wrong with him, you know, back, you know, those several years ago when he started just showing and saying things where I'm just like, I'm not sure if RM, he seems disillusioned with where he is at individually and where BTS is and is going. I think he had a moment of disillusionment at some point. And it's great to see kind of how he's worked himself out of that. And I also think that BTS had very low expectations right out of the gate, you know, 15 years ago. I really thought, I really think that they couldn't believe the level of success they were achieving. It was probably just mind-boggling that they were suddenly having this huge influence, and Army just started getting huge, and they were suddenly the hottest band in the world, and everybody wanted a piece of them. When all they really wanted was to be part of a successful group. They just wanted to make music and get a little bit of recognition, probably just within Korea. They weren't expecting all this other stuff. So it's kind of cool because they weren't trying to be mega stars. They really weren't. It just happened. Once that chemistry and they came together, it just happened. And they've been kind of trying to figure it out as they go. They have to figure out, suddenly you have to represent your country, and suddenly you have all these expectations, and people want this from you and want that from you. So they've kind of had to learn on the fly. And I think under those circumstances, they've done a fantastic job keeping things together over 15 years of this kind of, meteoric success. In songwriting camps, some of the industry's top songwriters and producers are typically assembled in one place and divided into several rooms, with the express task of producing the next chart toppers and fan favorites for pop's biggest acts. It's a tradition as old as our modern conception of pop music itself, going back to the competing teams of the Brill Building and the assembly line approach of Berry Gordy's Hitsville, USA. I was exactly thinking that. That's exactly how they used to do it back in the day in Motown. Early in BTS's career, it was the rap line, RM, Suga, and J-Hope who led in terms of songwriting and producing, crafting the bulk of some of their hits themselves. Through the years, though, the other members have grown into songwriters and producers in their own right, now boasting several songwriting and producing credits. The group's artistic maturity honed further during its time apart had an exciting effect on this album's sessions. We're all very ambitious still about writing music and creating music, says Suga. Depending on the different songs, there would be one member who would be the leading person, who would contribute to the writing of the song. Jimin, for example, expanded his skill set, learning new techniques on the music software QBS. Good job, Jimin. Jungkook enjoyed the routine of the camp. It was really fun because we had 3 rooms in the studio, he says. Sometimes we would pair up to go into a studio room. Sometimes it would be just one of us, and then we would switch pairs so that we could have different ideas and different types of collaborations. So it was our way of breaking away from molds. And sometimes it worked out really badly. Sometimes it worked out really nicely. But the whole process was very liberating and free, so it was very fun. Jin found his younger bandmates' enthusiasm inspiring. The younger brothers are so persistent, he says. They have so much passion. They're also crackheads. Speculating around the new album, which will be released March 20th, is at an all-time high. Already, Army sleuths have reportedly identified big-name songsmiths like Max Martin, the legendary Swedish songwriter-producer behind everything from Baby One More Time to Blinding Lights, and John Bellion, the songwriter behind the songs like Miley Cyrus's Midnight Sky and Justin Bieber's Ghost, as possible collaborators for this project. And Diplo. The members are careful not to share too many details about the album. They try anyway. But what they can say is a tantalizing enough prospect. We have a diversity of genres, Suga says. What I can tell you is that it's going to be quite different from the BTS albums and sounds that you've been listening to. You're going to see a more mature side of BTS this time around. It's truly the whole package, RM says. I can tell this next album is going to enlighten a little of that confusion. 2 weeks after my interview with them, I will receive a message from the band about their album title. They've chosen to name it Arirang, after a widely known anthem in Korea, reflecting the country's history. They wanted a name that represents who they are as a group and the stories they want to tell. Arirang is a traditional Korean folk song that transcends time and generations, long associated with emotions of connection, distance, and reunion. Pretty dope name. It feels like an apt name for this chapter of the group, one that finds them reuniting with their army and one another. It's notable too that during perhaps the most highly anticipated moment of their careers, the seven have chosen to turn the world's attention to their roots, the country that made them. BTS, after all, has always had the innate ability to sidestep the limitations of language and be thoroughly emotionally legible to the countless global fans. In their solo work, the members have been unafraid to tackle the darker aspects of contemporary life. Take Suga's work as August D, an angstier, more raw alter ego that saw him grapple with mental health and societal pressures, or RM's album length, Meditation on Self-Acceptance, Right Place, Wrong Time. In this next chapter of their work as a band, it'll be interesting to see how they can marry that ripened maturity to the sound the world expects of them. I do understand that being idol groups and boy bands and girl groups in the K-pop industry, it might feel like it's a little bit restraining about the negative sides of life. But I think as artists, as individuals, you have to be able to express both the positive and the negative sides of life. I think we are slowly heading that way because this album has a lot of introspection and thoughts. Things have changed and we are still changing. In an attempt to understand where the guys are at sonically, I asked them what they're currently obsessed with. V shares that one of the group's collaborators introduced them to the music of the experimental rapper Gene Dawson. It just impacted me so much because it flew in a totally different way than I thought it would. It gave me a lot of ideas on how music could flow and what kind of direction it could head towards. Man, they are still growing. They are still growing as artists and soaking up information. See, this is why I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon. As far as they're concerned, they're still students of the game, and they're still learning. They still have that desire. They're still grinding. They still have that grinding spirit that they had when they first started as teenagers. That has not gone away. How many artists can you say have that same level of grind and feeling of underdog and having to prove something? They still feel like they have something to prove after all the success and all of the accolades. They are still humble and hungry. It's amazing. At the very beginning, BTS, RM, Suga, and J-Hope held a makeshift hip-hop school at the BTS dorm, giving the other members a list of about 50 artists to immerse themselves in, highlighting canonical work by the likes of Tupac and Nas. This happened after their actual rehearsals as big hit trainees. Some nights, the self-starting Bangtan boys would come home from rehearsals at 11 p.m. and hold their School of Hip Hop sessions until 6 a.m., giving up sleep to nurture their musical education. And that's another thing. You have to respect the hard work. They put in the work. They didn't take any shortcuts. Nothing was handed to BTS. They had to work their asses off to get to where they're at. And the proof is in the pudding. Hard work pays off. That's the biggest lesson. That shared love for musical discovery is foundational to the band's dynamic and something has carried on to the present. Even today, this is apparent on social media when several members of BTS will post music by the same artists at the same time. Last summer, for example, there was a span of a few weeks when J-Hope, RM, V, and Jungkook all posted songs by the buzzy alternative R&B artist Dijon and social media. We tend to recommend music to each other when we like something, and that's why we tend to like the same music at the same time, says J-Hope. We do have different tastes, but we do have overlaps. For this part, J-Hope is currently obsessed with Rosalia's avant-garde Lux. Before I know it, all this music talk inspires the boys to start whipping out their phones in a round of "I'll show you mine if you show me yours" Spotify Wrapped. That is Spotify Wrapped, that is. I'm 24, Jungkook says. 20 says J-Hope. What? I'm 77, Suga says. What? I'm 88, says V. 89 says Jim and grandfather. Okay, let's remind them of their age. They're old souls. Look at JK. He's such a stud. Such a stud. BTS's own rise, built on the strides made by the generations of K-pop acts before them, the canny adaptation of innovative pop music from the West, the dense, striking visual storytelling that rewards repeat viewings, the strategic harnessing of technology, but with an authenticity and relatability that were all their own. If previous K-pop stars impressed with a polished impenetrability, BTS made themselves knowable, the quality that's also allowed them to transcend the genre entirely. That's for damn sure. I still remember watching Run BTS episodes, which you can watch on my Patreon, where they're filming the boys first thing in the morning with their bedhead, the crust in their eyes, barely awake, stumbling out to do some kind of thing. First thing in the morning. That's vulnerability, right? Vulnerability right there. In fact, even to this day, watching Are You Sure, filming the boys first thing in the morning with their pajamas and their morning breath, that's a level of this is me. This is I'm vulnerable. I'm letting you guys see, just me. No fancy makeup artists, no fancy wardrobe. It's just me waking up first thing in the morning. That's how many artists allow you to see them that up close and personal? They show them brushing their teeth and all this stuff. It's crazy, but that's what makes them relatable. In a 2024 interview with The New Yorker, Hybe chairman and founder Bang said that his strategy was trying to figure out the most fandom-friendly thing to do and then taking it to the extreme. Instead of leaning on TV appearances, he established a YouTube channel for the band even before its debut. Allowed the members to run their own Twitter accounts and be extremely candid in video blogs. Almost too candid. Vlogging through their lowest moments and live tweeting drunken nights out on the town. Who could he be talking about? I didn't want them to be false idols, Banks said. I wanted to create a BTS that could become a close friend. That's for sure. I've definitely felt that way. I've been reacting to them since 2020. I've seen them all their Run BTS episodes. I've seen all of their Bon Voyage episodes. I've seen all their documentaries. I've gotten to see these guys in so many different ways that just makes them so endearing. Where was I? That constant dialogue with their followers helped birth ARMY in contemporary pop music. The Stan Army is all but a given. They're devoted and intensely supportive, often serving as a pop star's street team, and sometimes spending thousands of dollars to see multiple shows on the same tour. Yes. I was ready. I was ready to spend thousands of dollars to go to their concert in Jersey with my whole family. I was close, but it was really expensive. Really expensive, and the seats weren't that great. If the seats were a little bit better, I might have actually paid the money, but the seats were way up there. I just couldn't justify. Anyway, I'll get another chance. I will get another chance. But Army takes that to a deeper, more intense, even altruistic level. They regularly organize charitable drives, including for BTS's collaborators like Halsey. Army's awesome. Last year, Army even sent a 7-year-old BTS song up the charts again as a way of communicating a message to the members. The 2018 Anpanman, that's actually my mom's favorite song of theirs, reached #1 on Billboard's World Digital Song Sales chart and in over 75 countries. When I mentioned that feat to the band, they're visibly moved. I'm very touched, says Jimin. I don't even know how to give all the love back because I've received so much and the love is so unconditional. I'm always thinking about how I could give back with better performances and better songs. We love you, Jimin. It's really hard to even know how big the love is because it's just so vastly huge. I think it's mutual. We impact the Army, but Army also impacts us. It goes both ways. And when we feel these things happening, then I really do think deeper about what message we should convey out there as a team, because whatever we say reverberates and means a lot to the Army. And we want to make sure that it makes a positive impact. Absolutely. Early in the band's success in America, a patronizing, dismissive portrayal of members. They're really going deep with this interview. Like they're kind of going through the entire story of BTS from the beginning, and they're actually teaching me, and I'm actually learning a lot of details that I didn't know before. The dismissal portrayal of members' Army seemed to take hold in Western coverage of the band. as if only youthful frivolity and raging hormones could explain the culture-bridging success of 7 boys from South Korea. Truth is, ARMY is an incredibly diverse group of people from different countries, different generations, and different gender expressions. Yeah. ARMY is truly a rainbow of people all around the world. I know this firsthand looking at the ARMYs in my life, from a Manila-based visual artist and sound designer whose work in film has won acclaim at Sundance and the Venice Film Festival, and whose art has been exhibited everywhere from Singapore to New York, to a Seattle-based tech executive who routinely brokers massive deals for one of the world's biggest companies when she's not using her PTO to fly across the world to watch BTS concerts. Who is this Seattle-based tech executive? I'm in Seattle. I would love to hang. I would love to meet you. Let's talk. Hit me up. And then there's my mother, a woman I've only ever known to love the music of singer-songwriters like James Taylor and Carole King. Oh, back in the day. Who, out of nowhere, suddenly called herself a proud member of ARMY. Like a lot of people, she fell in love with BTS during the pandemic. When my grandmother moved into our house after suffering multiple strokes, and my mother became her primary caregiver, focusing all of her energy around the clock for the octogenarian. During that dark time, on nights when she would have had to force herself to stay awake while keeping watch on my grandmother, who was breathing through an oxygen concentrator, my mother who would watch YouTube videos of the Bangtan Boys on her phone. She knew to only watch on the official BTS channels so the views counted. Their playful antics providing levity, their essential goodness allowing for hope. They kept me company during those late nights, she tells me now. There were so many problems, but I would watch their videos, and for a moment, they would make me smile. Yeah, that's pretty much where, where I'm from and kind of how I got started with BTS. I discovered them during the pandemic, and it was lonely, it was scary, it was stressful, and watching them every day, every week was the only thing I had. I had no one to talk to in my apartment. I was lonely, and it was just a very, very dark time full of uncertainty, and BTS was all I had. That BTS and ARMY, it felt like I was part of a community. It felt like I was part of something instead of being so isolated, so alone. And so, yeah, I am also a BTS fan. I'm also ARMY because of the pandemic. And it's kind of crazy when you think about how sometimes a very dark and low moment for the world can also spark and inspire very positive and beautiful things, Man, Jin has not aged. Jin looks exactly the same as he did 15 years ago. Yeah, Jin is a vampire. He does not age. As the band prepares to release their most mature and sonically ambitious album yet, I asked them if the Grammy still represents a pinnacle to them. Why do I have to be right all the time? Okay, I shouldn't get ahead of myself. But this dude is just asking all the questions and saying all the things that I have been saying for years. And so, shout out to this person. He has done a great job with this interview so far. Anyway, let's find out what he's going to say about this. I asked them if the Grammy still represents a pinnacle to them, if winning a trophy is still a goal. I don't know, says RM, because time has passed. There are a lot of K-pop related nominees you see in the general field, and really, I want to send big applause for them. Oh, so diplomatic. I mean, we'll try, he adds later, but maybe we'll submit our album to the Grammys again. But I don't know. We don't want to be desperately eager for it. We don't want to say anymore like, man, we want the Grammys. I mean, it doesn't mean that we really don't want it, but we'll try. But if not, then okay. He wants it. He wants it. They want it. Let's be real. It's okay to say it, RM. Well, no, he has to maintain a certain, But I'll say it for him. Yes, RM wants to win a Grammy. Yes, BTS wants to win a Grammy. It's something that they definitely want, and I think It's important to them, even though some people, some army think it's not important to them, that they really don't care about it that much, and it's not a big deal. It is. It is a big deal. It's the ultimate stamp of global approval, especially in the West. They want that acceptance. They want that recognition that they're more than just these Korean K-pop acts. They want to be able to say that they're on the level of the great artists of the past, like, you know, the Beatles, Michael Jackson, you know, you name it. They want to be up there in the pantheon of great global mega stars that have come, that have passed through history. They want to be one of those guys. Anyway, for the band at least, the goal was always less about the actual trophy and more about having a North Star for the group to work toward. Typically, a band is 4, right? We're 7. For a team like this, sometimes we need such a goal to just go on. Nothing wrong with that. Like Michael Jordan used to make up stuff for him to motivate him. There's nothing wrong with setting a goal to keep you motivated. The Grammys was one of those goals that we haven't really gotten in the past. But I think now the most important thing is just that we are here back together again. We're going to see the fans all over the world. Nearly 6 years after their last studio album, will their hot streak continue? The thing about an imperial phase is it often happens only once in a band's lifespan. When the Pet Shop Boys' Neil Tennant coined the term in 2001, in an interview with Chris Heath for a remaster of their seminal 1987 album, Actually, he was looking back at a run in the late 80s where it seemed like the band had the golden touch, a time when their sensibilities met the moment and they could do no wrong. Whatever that word is, essay for Pitchfork that centered the idea of the imperial phase, think Rumors era, Fleetwood Mac, Faith era, George Michael, and Michael Jackson off the wall, to the start of the bad era. In Pop Discourse, the critic Tom Ewing wrote, "There's something double-edged about the concept. It holds a mix of world-conquering swagger and inevitable obsolescence. What do we know about emperors? They end up naked. The phase always ends." Kind of depressing. Namjoon. Oh, look at those pants. But of course, there are always exceptions to the rule, and time again, BTS have proved themselves the exception to every pop rule. They were the underdog K-pop band who weren't supposed to be able to compete with the acts from the big 3 companies. The global breakout that some pegged as a novelty. If any hugely popular contemporary band were to defy the odds, it would be them. Theirs is the kind of impact that can only be meaningfully compared to the Beatles or the Supremes. Just like the Fab Four, BTS was crucial in bringing the music industry of a whole nation to the center of global pop. And like Motown's lead girl group, the band's shiny packaging and catchy hooks have served as an effective Trojan horse for lasting social change, breaking down racial barriers and paving the way for more Asian visibility in mainstream culture. When comparisons between BTS and the Beatles started cropping up around their US breakthrough, it wasn't just because of statistics, it was a recognition that this too would be a true generational force, the closest thing to monoculture in our fractured times. And the members of BTS have known how fickle fame can be from the very beginning, starting out in K-pop and a music industry so competitive and transient that every release following a debut is called a comeback, regardless of how much time has actually passed. They knew not to take anything for granted. Making it past the 100-day mark is not easy. Every comeback must be a smash in order to make financial sense to the company and for a group not to be disbanded. In this way, the customs of the court are similar to aughts era UK pop, where even generational acts like the Sugar Babies and Girls Aloud lived single to single for a surprisingly huge swaths of their careers. I think BTS are innovators, Halsey said. I don't think they need to worry about what's happening now because they're always going to trailblaze what happens next. It's all sort of background noise for a generational act of musicians who know how to take the noise that actually matters to the forefront. In September 2013, when BTS hit their 100-day milestone, they marked the occasion with a special radio show, celebrating with cake, giddily singing congratulations to one another. Watching the clip now, almost 13 years later, is striking how much none of what followed seemed a given at the time. Not the massive hits in South Korea, the devoted fan base that helped them break through around the world, their current status as pioneers and superstars. The Bangtan Boys were just that, boys, dreaming of what could be, hoping for the best. Ain't that what I said? On the program, Suga said in Korean, it's been exactly 100 days since we debuted. I think we've been able to make it this far, all thanks to armies. Looking at his bandmates, he continued, whether it's 100, 1,000, or 10,000 days, let's stay together. With no hesitation, his bandmates responded in unison, let's stay together. Sitting down with the band now, shortly before their grand return, I asked Suga if it still feels that way, if the next 100,000 or 10,000 days still feel promised. The reason I said that was because in the earlier days of showbiz, there's so much going on and your lifespan can be pretty short in the business. Suga says, reflecting on that time in their life together, I was worried. Until when would we be able to do this? But now I ask the same question under a positive light. We're still very good friends. The fans still love us. They want us. They support us. If we can keep this going, then maybe we can be dancing in our 60s. Jimin, you hear that? I want to see you dancing in your 60s, boo. As long as we're willing. I think maybe into our 50s, into our 60s, we can always be together as a band. Then looking at his 6 bandmates, he's already lived a few times with Suga. Suga smiles, and maybe it'll be a little bit hard on our knees, but I think we can do it. Hey, as long as you don't look like Genuine, I don't want to see Jimin. You better not be doing your little flips when you're 60. Because have you seen Genuine on stage? It's not a good look. Hey, know your limitations, my boo. You have you probably have another 10 years left of the fancy, beautiful dance moves. Although I'm going to miss it when it's gone. I'm going to miss it when it's gone, Jimin. Your beautiful contemporary dance moves, it's not going to last forever. So I'm going to enjoy it while it lasts. Is that a wrap? Okay, who is this person? Raymond Ang is a GQ Associate Director of Editorial Operations. Is that the dude who did this? Well done. Well done, well done. That was a great article right there. That was a great article. Okay, Raymond Ang, great job. Anyway, that was a tremendous article. I learned a ton, and I'm more excited than ever to finally witness BTS's comeback next month. I hope you enjoyed this kind of long-ish reading reaction, but I thought it would be fun to do it on camera in front of you guys so you can kind of see my thoughts as I read through a lot of those things. Anyway, I know it's been long. I need to get up and stretch, but next time, I'll see ya. I'm out.